Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Thank you for joining us. As you can see, I'm in the van. We're not in the workshop. We are on an adventure. Yes, the storm has caused a lot of damage. The workshop roof, various tiles and bits and bobs, and I'm doing my best to deal with those. I've ordered more roof sheets and I've lined up roofers to try and fix the roof, but I'm also juggling trying to finish this kitchen. The last couple of episodes we've had Ash down, my friend, a carpenter who's helped me build the most beautiful kitchen. I'm over the moon with it. And the finishing touch is the stone worktops. So today I've come over to the Lizard, which, as far as I'm aware, is the most southern point of the country to see Duke Stone of Cornwall. And I know they have had some trouble with the storm. They have not had power since the storm, and I think they still don't have any power, but they've been very kind to let me come down to their yard, have a look around, and hopefully we can find and pick out a piece of stone that's going to be suitable for the kitchen worktops. After this we'll be templating, but first things first, let's get to their yard. Fingers crossed they've got a piece of stone there with my name on it that's going to be the new kitchen worktop. I'm excited. So for the kitchen I have chosen to have natural stone worktops. There's various options: granite, marble, quartz, slate, plus, as you can see, so many different options in various different colours. They are absolutely beautiful. Choosing to have natural stone worktops is not quite as straightforward as just going to the shops and getting a length of material to then cut to fit the kitchen. This is a natural product. It's a bit like going to a sweet shop, but on a massive scale. Wandering around their yard, looking at all of these beautiful pieces of stone, some lovely bits of marble in there, some lovely bits of quartz. This beautiful big piece of black slate is the chosen one. It's 35 mil thick, I think. In places it varies because it's just as split, and amazingly this is not cut, this is actually split. That's how slate kind of breaks. It's along its grain, and I quite like this sort of rough texture that's on the surface, so I may well leave it like that. But it's a beautiful, rich, deep, sort of almost black colour, and I think it's going to look good in the kitchen. Duke Stone of Cornwall have a brilliant facility, some amazing equipment. There's a lot of decisions to make: edge details, profiles, surface finishes. I've got a lot of thinking to do, but I know I'm in capable hands. Picking out the slab that you want to use is one job. Once you've got that chosen, then you need to chop it up. And these guys have got some serious gear. Very accurate templates will be made, and all those measurements and notes are transferred on to the piece of stone, and then all of the cuts are programmed in, and these beautiful big machines do all of the work. Things like drainage grooves, you can cut into it, bevel the edges, round off the edges. There's so many different options and so many different choices, which is why the best thing to do is to come down to their yard, have a look around, and you can touch and feel and have a look at the different materials and the different finishes that they can choose. Even the top surface of the material, there are options there, from left as is, to rough textured, honed, polished. There's all sorts of options. Another night, another hotel. I'm on the road filming again, which is really exciting, but it means staying in different random hotels every night. But one thing I do not have to worry about is my internet security. As soon as I open up my laptop, try and connect to the Wi-Fi in this hotel, they're going to ask me for all of my personal information, and I'm going to be connected to this random open Wi-Fi network, which comes with some risks. Luckily, thanks to today's sponsor, Surfshark, I'm safe. I have no choice but to join random public Wi-Fis like this one, because I need to send the files to Camera Dan so he can edit this video. Public Wi-Fi is risky due to potential hackers intercepting data, allowing others on the network to see all of your activity. These criminals can set up malicious networks that are very similar named to legitimate ones, hoping that you'll be tricked and fooled and connect to their network. Potentially all of your passwords, banking details, addresses, private information is all at risk and vulnerable to data theft. However, with Surfshark, you can stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Whether you're connecting to Wi-Fi in a cafe or you're an avid traveller at a hotel and airport, Surfshark will always keep you safe, even on public networks. Surfshark is a VPN, that stands for Virtual Private Network, which encrypts your data, completely hiding your real IP address, protecting you from online hackers. Surfshark does not collect your personal activity, does not track your activity or your whereabouts. I am so pleased to say that the very generous team at Surfshark have offered viewers of this channel an amazing offer of 4 extra months from your annual Surfshark VPN plan. Go to surfshark.com/DOMC or use code DOMC at the checkout, or click on the link below in the description. A huge thank you to Surfshark for keeping me safe wherever I am and whatever internet network I'm connected to. I have raced back to the kitchen because a team are here at the kitchen from Stone of Cornwall to template. This is a critical step and needs to be extremely precise, because although they're going to template using Corex, a sort of plasticky thin material you can draw on and cut very easily with a knife and with scissors, those templates are going to be essential for cutting these worktops when they do finally cut them out of the slate. Every little detail and angle and scribed line needs to be accurate with these templates to then get transferred to the stone. That wasn't straightforward.
To be fair, that is a really good scribe.
It's pretty good, isn't it? This is going to be interesting. I've realised I'm being fussy with the stone. The slate that was there, it's not quite as riven is the word. I've learnt a new word, because slate is sort of formed in layers. Where it's split, you get quite a nice texture, and I was hoping to have that uneven, undulating sort of texture. The pieces of slate that they had there had a nice texture. They look beautiful. The colour is lovely, really black. But they're going to look and see if they've got any more, or if they can get hold of any more with a bit more of a texture. If not, we'll have those ones. They're willing to entertain me, which I really appreciate. I'm sure you can hear chainsaws in the background. I mean, every tree surgeon in Cornwall is up to their eyeballs busy at the moment. It's kind of heartbreaking. There's not enough trees here as it is.
A cross section, yeah.
But you can have another. I don't mind if it kind of comes out again and does a little, you know, if it, whatever you really need. It doesn't have to match this side.
Right.
We can be creative.
You go indoors.
Did you have like a picture in your head how you wanted that? Did you want it kind of coming out?
I feel like it might be good to just go like that.
Just so coming out across?
Yeah.
Right, that's fine.
It completely transforms it. See, just putting the top on, it looks completely different. Yeah. But then I guess where you're scribing in bits, that's, I mean, the machines that you've got at that unit, they're all just straight cuts. Do you do all the scribing in by hand?
They can, or if you do digital templating, they will scribe.
Will it?
Yeah.
Is it like water jet or something?
No, it's with the
that saw.
The blades will just go like that.
Really?
Yeah. They'll go into like that, so they won't do.
Well, not this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to scribe that at 30mm up down.
Yeah, I know.
Do we want to keep it polished, so you're not scratching your oven if you have to take your oven in?
Yeah, that doesn't need grinding.
No,
it could just be rough cut, like it doesn't. Or yeah, I mean, whatever
But we
you
would normally put
finish it with.
a soft polish.
You must have a language between yourselves and whoever has to do all this cutting, no? +2, -2, whatever this 10p means.
10p, there's a 12.5mm radius.
Is it a 10p piece?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put 10p in the corner.
It'll fit in there.
Pretty much, yeah.
Brilliant.
And guys, when they're polishing, they'll just put 10p there and just make sure
That's actually consistent.
It'll be cut out square, and then it'll go into the dry booth, and the guy will
just
shape
finish
it.
But yeah,
he'll shape it,
Yeah.
and then it goes into the polishing booth, and then they'll polish
Get
it
it.
into that. Yeah.
templating for the slate worktops is not easy. These two guys have clearly done it a lot, and this little return where it goes into the sort of dining seating area is causing some head scratching, because it's not just about templating and following the shapes of the walls. They've got to think ahead. Once this is cut out of a 35-40mm thick piece of slate, how do they get it in? They need to think about where to put joints so they can actually get the pieces in. They obviously want as fewer joints as possible. It would be lovely to get it in one piece, but it may well be impossible to actually get it in. There might be undercuts, there might be returns that you can't physically get the piece of stone in and onto the top. So I'm glad that these guys are doing it, and not me.
What we'll do, we'll get it all templated.
See how easy you can get that out.
Cut a joint and see what it's like.
Yeah.
What they do is they score it and then put whole biscuits, so then when the glue goes in, it just holds it all solid.
Oh, so there are sort of biscuits.
Yeah, so it's not. They used to rod it years ago as a glue biscuit.
Oh, so I see. So there's no actual biscuit.
No,
you
it's
just
glue. It's just glue.
jab
biscuit.
a couple in there at the angle grinder
Just
again.
Grinder, yeah.
And the resin just holds it.
Yeah.
That one's okay because you're over the unit, so it's supported the whole way.
Yeah, it's fine.
But that one, if you come off your diagonal, there's going to be a bit that's not supported. Sounds like it doesn't really matter. There's a batten on the wall, but there's a gap here.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
It doesn't have to be.
Right. Are you happy with these ears finishing? Just brought them round, just off the round.
Yeah, perfect.
Both sides.
Yeah, so they're on the flat.
Yeah.
Is that roughly the height you reckon it's going to be about there somewhere?
It's going to hit around here.
Yeah, fine. It's starting to look good, isn't it?
Optimistic. It's going to work.
I like it. Now that the guys have left and the templating is done, they're going to take those back to their unit and essentially lay them on top of the piece of slate, work out how they can Tetris them together, and then cut them out. That is a process that I may miss because I think I'm going to be away filming, but at the very least I will be here for the install, so you'll see it. You'll be here with me. Somehow we have got a gap in the weather. Look at the beautiful sunshine out there. And that means I can actually now go outside and finish sealing up the cladding. And I've been looking forward to talking to you about this because this is a new material on me. I would be really interested to know if any of you have heard of it, have used it, know anything about it. Any information you've got, would love to hear it because I think this is going to be a bit of a game changer. This cladding is cedar, which is what my lovely greenhouse was made of from Woodpecker Joinery. If you've been following from a while, the old house had that lovely greenhouse. That was all completely made of cedar. So it probably would be absolutely fine outside if I just oiled it and sealed it and kept oiling it. Have you ever heard of Stockholm tar? Neither have I, until recently. Who knows what's going to happen? I have done a little test beforehand on an offcut of this cedar, and it took a while to dry, but with the sun blazing on this today, this seems to be drying okay. But have I put it on too thick? Quite possibly. Will I regret it on a warm sunny day in the middle of summer when it all starts waking up and going sticky again? Possibly. There's only one way to find out, isn't there? Let's have a go, see what happens. If it's wrong, I'll take it off and do something else. That now just needs to sit there and dry. I need to clean up because I've made a bit of a mess, but it actually worked really well. If you got it quite hot, it started steaming and it almost went to water. So then you could wash it on. I reckon if I did a thinner coat, I could have sort of ragged it on and buffed it off. It would have probably been a bit more subtle. This is quite a thick, tarry coating, but I quite like the look of it. It smells so good. But that's it now. Clean myself up and get on with the next job. I'll wait for a few days, a week or so, let you know how it's drying. The walls here are all lime. This is all a lime render, which means you have to use a lime wash, which is a special kind of paint. Well, it's not really a paint, it's a wash, but it's very specific to lime walls. I want the ceiling to be the same colour as the walls, and I want to use the same lime wash because you get a nice mottled texture and a beautiful, very flat colour. Emulsions are very sort of plasticky. Even a flat matte emulsion, still never the same as a lime wash. But the ceiling is made of MDF. So you cannot lime wash straight over MDF. But I have a good solution. So if anybody out there wants that look of lime wash, that beautiful mottled flat matte texture, you need to get in touch with Francesca. Francesca makes her own paints. The primer that Francesca sells, I believe, has got lime in it. So you're essentially priming the surface with a lime-based primer, which means you can use her lime washes over the top of it. It doesn't have obviously the same benefits of a lime wall, an actual lime rendered wall, but if you've got a lime wall that's got areas that have been repaired with a plaster, or a bit of plasterboard that blends into a lime wall, and you want it all to be consistent, a couple of coats with this primer works so well. I went up to Francesca's shop years ago. She was in West London. I'm not sure if she's still there. I've ordered this primer recently, so she's definitely still going. If you've got a lime wall that needs a lime wash or a patched up old lime wall, this stuff honestly is really good. She's lovely, and the colours that she makes are all beautiful. I hope that you are enjoying this little series of videos on building this kitchen. I know it may appear like we're not getting tons done in every episode, but I hope that it shows all of the little details and how long it all takes. I hope you're enjoying it, but that is the end of another video. So thank you very much for watching. And of course, a huge thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget, you can go to surfshark.com/DomC or use the code DOMC at the checkout and get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week, Sunday, 5 PM, and hopefully we'll have some nice new worktops. See you then.